Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live chat. And I am so excited because tonight's guest, her name is Callie Hunter, and she is a licensed psychologist. She's an author, and she's also a forest therapy guide. And we are going to be talking about understanding your diagnosis and why that is essential for healing. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up Callie, and I'm so excited for this conversation. Okay, should be working. Oh,
Hey
hey!
Sue, how are ya?
Good, how are
I made it.
you?
I'm good.
Yes.
I was just hoping I was clicking the right things and going to the right places.
Yeah, you're great. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so excited for our discussion tonight.
Me
And
too. Thanks for inviting me to have this conversation.
yes, absolutely. So before we dive in, can you share like three fun facts about yourself?
Oh. Uh Fun things. I mean, some of them are probably obvious. I love to go hiking. That's fun. Um, I have a black lab named June.
Oh,
Um, I don't know anything else fun.
I know I kind of put you on the
Oh no,
spot. It's okay.
it's okay. I mean, I have three kids. That can be fun.
Yes.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I am super excited to have you on the live chat tonight. And we're talking about like how understanding your diagnosis could be vital for healing. And I really want to talk about your book, which is called Jump:
Yay.
How
Thank
Chronic
you.
Illness Made Me Well. Great title, by the way.
Ah, thank
And
you. Took a
like,
while to
how
get
did
there.
you come to write the book? Like, and what was that process like?
Um, that's an excellent question. It was a stumbling. So I guess it kind of started, to be honest with you, I was going through, um, just like a lot emotionally. And so I knew I needed to see a therapist, and I started talking to her, and she was like, "What have you done in the past to, sort of soothe yourself? What's something enjoyable for you?" And I was like, "Well, I really love writing, but at the time I had three little kids. My youngest was 6 months old, and like they're all 2 years apart. So I was crazy busy with them, and then feeling sick all the time, like always in pain. And so I was just like exhausted and didn't really feel like I could take the time to do something I enjoyed. And
Hmm.
she kind of gave it to me as an assignment for therapy. She was like, 20 minutes a day. That's it. Just start writing. So that's what it was, just like little 20-minute snippets of like, I would sometimes complain the whole time and when I was writing, but then other times I just kind of like spilled out like what I was going through with the diagnosis, what I was going through as a mom with a chronic illness. And then it was like all these little like folders on my computer after I started healing and then was healed. I was like, oh, maybe this could actually be a book because I was determined that if I did heal, that and regardless, if I were to get to a better place, let's say that, because we don't always heal from our illnesses, but if I were to get to a better place, I wanted to be able to come back and help people who were newly diagnosed because as a psychologist, I realized that there is not a lot of support for people who are being diagnosed with something that's like forever. And a lot of people are in their 30s. A lot of autoimmune diseases are diagnosed as a woman in your 30s. You're in the throes of like your career or having your family or whatever, you're in the middle of all of the things of life and they just hand you a pamphlet and it's like, here, you
Mm.
have this disease forever. Good luck. And then the support that they nudge you towards is like support groups online, which can be fine. In my experience, they were not. So, uh,
Yeah.
So yeah, so I just was like, if I were to get to a better place, I want to be able to provide some resources, like tangible resources to people who are going through it. So yeah.
Yes, I love that. And thank you so much for wanting to do that and actually having the resources because you're right. Like, there's not enough support out there, especially like for chronic
Mhm.
illness, because that is something that you're navigating, like you said, for life.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times people don't really understand like how to support someone with chronic illness and
Mhm.
how it can also have an effect on their mental health as well.
Yeah, that's huge. I think one of the things I've worked through with clients before who are have chronic illnesses that have gone through things with them, we spend like an entire session or two just on talking about how to communicate what you're going through to your friends and your family and your significant others, like how, because they weren't given a guidebook either, so like navigating how to share all of that is also really important for relationships.
Yes, absolutely. And so speaking of your experience with chronic illness, like what was it like to receive your diagnosis? And also like how did you learn that learning more about your condition was actually beneficial for your health?
Yeah, I remember someone telling me it was like the week before. I had a procedure done where they like essentially stick a camera up your bladder, and it's as painful as it sounds. It's
Yeah.
as bad as it sounds. Um, but before I went into it, I was talking about it with some friends, and they were like, "Well, it's not going to be that. It's fine." I was like, "No, you don't understand. If it isn't that, then I don't know what I'm going to do because having an answer, I mean, it's validation for one. It's not like, oh my gosh, she's just anxious and making all of these physical symptoms up, which is, I think, what about 70% of my friends and family thought. Um, but it's also like a first, like a landing, a beginning point, a starting point to healing, to finding what can put your disease into remission and what can bring you comfort and to find the supports because while I didn't find the social support that I was looking for through the forums, I randomly found a woman that reached out to me who also had it. And then she was already friends with a couple of people through like an Instagram messaging thing. And we still will talk to each other here and there. Not like nearly, we were talking to each other multiple times per day. But now it'll be a check in every few months or so, or if somebody's having a flare, we'll check in and, so it's, having access, knowing what you have gives you access to the social support, gives you access to the physical, medical avenues for treatment. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I also love how you mentioned about community because
Hmm.
that is like an integral part, especially when you're dealing with something as, serious as a chronic illness. And so how has your community shown up for you while you were initially trying to navigate like how to manage the chronic illness? Like how was that for you?
Um, oh, that is a complicated response, and I'm going to really choose carefully. I do. Um, my parents, my family, I had a lot of people step up in ways that were incredible, like helping with the kids. But it was also extremely isolating. Um, which is why that because people don't, like I was saying, they don't understand what you're going through, and you also don't want to burden them. Um, and I was having a lot, even as a trained mental health professional, and as someone who is strong in my faith, I did not. I was having trouble with wanting to just stay alive. Like I was in so much pain. So um, that was a difficult thing to just bring up to, I never talked about it with my parents when I was going through it. And there were people in my life that were extremely close to me that just wanted me to be better and got frustrated that I wasn't and got frustrated that I was having such a hard time. So in a lot of ways, my community didn't show up. but it's not entirely their fault, if that makes sense. The already established community. I think you have to seek out the community that you need. And I feel like it was kind of placed in my hands. And like I was saying, those women that I was talking to before were so instrumental in my social support. And when I was in graduate school, we did a lot of, I helped in research labs, and all they talked about, all of the research studies were on social support and how it's sort of, it's helpful for children. So I'm a school psychologist, so it's a predictor of, you know, how we do in school and how we do in the future. And I really think that someone should do some research on the types of social support that are important for when you're going through a chronic illness, because you need to talk to people who are also going through it. So, or someone who's gone through it, because you do feel so isolated. And even your friends and family could try the hardest they possibly can, but they still don't understand what it is that you're going through. You're going through a complete identity like crisis and loss of self, and the anxiety. It's awful. So, yeah, seeking out appropriate community was really important.
Yeah, and I can imagine, just like you mentioned, like it's just like the anxiety and the identity, and just like having to grapple with the fact that now you have to manage a condition that is lifelong,
Mm-hmm.
and something that is just putting you out in terms of like your mental and emotional state. Like it's just a lot to deal with all
Mm-hmm.
at once. And so I could just imagine like how your mental health was also impacted. So can you talk a little bit
Yeah.
about how your mental health was affected by managing chronic illness?
Yeah. So, the doctor says you have a chronic illness. I mean, implied there, chronic forever, like
Yeah.
forever. Like before when you get sick, every time when you're sick and you're in the throes of it, you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to be better. But like, you know that yes, okay, in a few days, my body is going to do what it needs to do. It's going to heal. But when you're told it's a chronic illness, it's like, there is no guarantee that you will get better. And actually what they're telling you is that you won't. And so but and there's such a strong I write about this in the book, that like until our thoughts believe that we can get better, um it's really difficult for our body to get there. So and I am not someone who says believe it and you'll get better. If you don't, there's something wrong with you. I think that that's really invalidating and hurtful to a lot of people in the chronic illness community, so I just always want to make that clear. But I also think that if you're going to get on a path to healing, um, it's really difficult to get there if you don't hear that it's possible to heal, which is why I really try to say that, because in the beginning, that was the biggest struggle for me. Was the doctor was just like, well, we'll try these different treatments, and we tried a bunch and they didn't work. And um, so then that kind of, it was like after that first round of treatments and I wasn't getting better, the anxiety built more. And then after a year of nonstop feeling like I had a bladder infection kind of pain, um, it was very doubtful to me that I was going to heal. And so I was kind of trapped in this thought of, okay, if this is forever, can I live like this? Like, can I actually live the rest of my life and endure this pain
Yeah.
as it is? And um, I I remember I had a conversation with, it was my husband at the time, and I was just like, I've looked into when the best time developmentally would be for me to die. And he just looked at me and he was like, Callie, like, there's never going to be a time that's like going to be okay for you, for the kids, like for you to leave. And I was so mad, like, because it's just like, no, but you don't understand. Like, I can't do this forever. And
Right.
one thing I talk about a lot when I talk about suicidal thoughts is that it's not really that we want to die. It's not that we want our lives to end. We just want the pain to end.
Yes.
And that's like the only avenue that we see at that point in time that we we can see the pain ending. And so that's why it was so important for me to finally start seeing, okay, the pain can end. I started finding success stories. I would purposely just seek out, like, okay, who has healed from this, or who has gone into remission? Because I mean, I did heal and I've been in remission for quite a while, but I still have flares every once in a while, and they scare me half to death every time. But I have to just kind of coax myself through and do all of the meditation and the breathing. But yeah, it was mostly just that impending doom feeling of this pain is going to be forever. And it's, there actually is research on chronic illness and how it remove the identity crisis that you do go through, because you have to kind of reestablish who you are. So not just because of the the emotional effects, but like the physical, like I couldn't actually do a lot of the things that I used to do. I was a really active person before, and literally like, walking across the room was painful. So and a lot of our identity is wrapped up in what we do, right? And like, even my identity as a mom was really affected because I couldn't just go run around with the kids in the backyard like all these other moms were doing. They didn't even have, or even if I was attempting it, I was like, no one else is thinking about their bladders. And it's just like infiltrated every single part of who you are. So that is a lot to go through on its own, not to mention all of that you're trying to go through with the healing and the treatments and all the things you can't eat. And yeah, so yeah,
Wow.
there's a lot. Did I
No,
answer the
girl.
question?
No,
Okay.
you're good.
Okay.
I am just like, first of all, I want to say I am so proud of you for just being able to share your story, because I know that this is like very tasking, especially like emotionally, mentally, and of course physically. But I just love how you decided to be a mental health advocate and to really empower others on their journey as well. And so I love that. I'm
Aw,
proud of you for that.
thank you. It's my absolute pleasure. Like I love when I hear that someone was like, "Oh, I saw that you got better and that gave me encouragement," or like I've followed these, and it's not just about healing. It's about finding, like, the wellness. I say in my podcast, and continue to live your life chronically well. How chronic illness has made you a better person after and in it, like within it, because um, we can't always count on, you know, all of our symptoms going away. And so then how do you live within that? And yeah, it's my absolute joy to be able to help people um, find that. it's it's almost selfish because, like, I think back on like what would I have wanted, and I think back on how I would have cared for myself, and that's just what I, yeah, want to offer. So
Yeah, and also that's not selfish because you're putting it in retrospect. It's like,
yeah,
hey,
okay.
if someone was like, giving me these resources, like what would I have wanted someone to share with me? And I feel like as mental health advocates, we often put pressure on ourselves to be like the ultimate resource for everybody, but at the same time, you just got to think like, okay, what would I have wanted when I first,
Yeah.
or what would I have needed in the moment where I felt like I couldn't go on, and how could I give that to others? And I think that's very important. So ultimately, it's this.
Okay, good. Okay, I guess in my head I'm just like thinking about me, but you're right. If yeah, how do I offer that? Yeah, yeah.
Like it's your own
Thank you.
personal experience. So yeah, you're good. You're good. That's not so. But
Okay, I'm not selfish.
like you're doing great.
Thanks. I'll take it.
But I also want to kind of pivot a little bit because I'm very curious to know about what forest
Oh,
therapy is. Cause
yeah.
I'm also a forest therapy guide. So what's forest therapy?
Forest therapy it's easiest if I start with what it isn't. So It isn't a long hike. It isn't a naturalist experience. I know some things, but I don't know enough to name things. It isn't me walking through the woods and going through your deepest, darkest secrets. Um, it's an embodiment experience out in the woods. So I got my training through the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, and it was a 6 month training online, and then you do an immersion. It's built upon Shinrin Yoku, which is a Japanese, it's basically just literally means forest bath. And so it kind of started like back in the 1980s in Japan. And what they noticed is, like, if you remember Nintendo, there was a huge tech boom. And so a largely agricultural um, culture kind of went indoors, and they noticed a huge rise in autoimmune diseases and cancer. And they thought there's this, if there's this correlation here, why? And so they looked into so they measured the effects of nature on the body. And so they did like cortisol swabs before and after time in nature. And actually, there are designated spots in Japan that are forest bath sites that have been tested. So you can go to them. And they found that cortisol levels dropped significantly after spending, they say, about 2 to 3 hours in nature. There's also these things called phytoncides that are released by trees, and they fight off funguses and molds and things that threaten the life of the tree. But when we breathe them in, it boosts our natural killer cells, which are what fight cancer. So I'm not going to say that being in nature fights cancer, but it certainly helps. It also just is, for me, it was I didn't know any of that stuff when I went into becoming a guide. I just knew that nature was a place where I felt home. I felt a presence of something greater than myself. And I think, regardless of what your spiritual background is, what your beliefs are, there's something that a lot of us have felt when we're in nature, just sort of like this presence of peace and love and serenity. And so I had already, with clients, been including that as one of the pillars of healing, is like spend some time in nature. And so then when I looked into that program, I was like, oh, like this is why. And so it was really, I loved the program so much. It was like a spiritual practice in and of itself. And so yeah, I take people out into the woods. It's usually about 2 to 3 hours. We kind of start out with some meditations, and then I offer a series of invitations. They're usually about like 10 to 20 minutes. And they're invitations because you can choose to do them or you can choose to do your own thing. They range from, going and finding a being, or just going and spending 20 minutes, or going and examining the difference between the shade and the sunlight. And there's so many. And then we end with a special surprise, which I'm not going to say unless you come on a walk. I am going to try and do some virtually soon so that more people can experience them. But it's just kind of a way. The aspect that has been so surprising to me is the community that's formed just in the walks. Like the people that come, and we have opportunities to share in between invitations. We do sharing circles, and I'm always moved. I'm always moved by the end by something someone has said, or their just our connections with one another. We very rarely, first of all, take time to just give ourselves 2 to 3 hours to slow down and spend some intentional time. And then also, we very rarely give that time to connect with other people without the distractions of our phones and the everyday world. So I love leading the walks. I would do it for free forever. So yeah.
Yes, wow, that's awesome because I did not know just like the effects of how nature could actually help our bodies, like outside of like, oh yeah, we breathe and the trees give us oxygen and stuff, like,
Yeah.
like that's the
No,
baseline.
there's like, so I'm like half woo, half science. So like a very skeptical person, but I'm also a very spiritual person. So it's this really difficult combination, trust me. Um, but what I loved about it is like there's the woo, we got all of that. But then there's a whole bank, like I don't know, probably like close to 100 research articles that they have available through the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy that I was able to look through and download and read. And it's when you're able to kind of find the science behind it too, it helps with the woo. It helps the belief even deeper, like, oh, okay. And I think that's true for a lot of things they're finding now, like the science behind all of it. And so, yeah, there's studies that have shown almost a direct relationship between um, time outside and the reduction of cancer cells. And that's really cool to see. So yeah, it's all out there.
Yes,
Mhm.
most definitely. I just love learning about just the different types of therapy that are out there. Like, it's
Yeah.
not just the conventional or traditional, like, oh, I talked to somebody
Yeah.
and, like it's a lot of different avenues to do therapy, and it's just so cool
Yeah,
to like.
I agree. And I think, talk therapy has its place, and I am an ongoing lifelong, I will be a lifelong therapy goer. But I also think that it doesn't always access um, like sort of the somatic therapy that our bodies need, especially with trapped trauma. Like they've actually found that talk therapy is not that effective. Um, Especially if you can't walk your patient through the release of it from their body, because trauma really does trap itself. It gets stuck in our bodies, and we need to find ways to like move in and through and release it. And there's a really good book, if anybody's interested, called The Body
Like
Keeps the
sure.
Score.
Yes.
Yeah. And he talks about that. And so like actually force therapy is the program I went through is a trauma informed practice. So it's actually, it can be, people can meet some things when they are out in the woods with me that they weren't anticipating. I have seen where, people have had to leave before because they've kind of they've been still long enough. Sometimes we aren't still long enough to let ourselves feel. And so when you actually do that and like allow yourself to feel the trauma that's stuck in your body, it can be a little overwhelming, but that is why I'm trained in a program to kind of help if that were to occur. Um, and it's just it's a type of therapy that does not require talk therapy. And I really think sometimes we are our own best guides. So we say within ANFT that the woods are the therapist, the guide just opens the door. So I'm just opening the door to you, to the woods, to the experience, to yourself, to others. It really isn't me teaching anyone anything. But it happens. It's wild to me how I do absolutely nothing. I mean, I follow my guiding
Right.
principles. We have a very like stringent structure that we follow, and I do that. But then it's just like it's always amazing to me how what's meant to happen for someone, it just happens. Because yeah, the
Yeah.
the woods, the more than human world, we call it, inner
Yeah.
seats.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you recommend that people like go with a guide, or if somebody wanted to start doing this themselves, like what would you recommend?
So I tell people if you are capable of going out into the woods and not letting your mind run the whole time about your day, about what's tomorrow, about, ooh, I wonder what that is. Ooh, I wonder if like you can calm your brain down and you know how to kind of drop into your body and do sort of like a meditation to get there and like, then no, you don't need a guide. But if that's a struggle for you, as I think it is for a lot of people, it has been for me, then I definitely recommend going with a guide. But there are like practices that I talk about that you can start doing. I mean, nature is everywhere. So we've kind of told ourselves, oh, you have to be out in the woods, like miles away from town. Like you could, like I could just like sit with my plants right now, and I'm in nature, and we are nature. So like our access to nature is all around us. Um, so just taking time, I usually tell people like try to start a 20-minute a day sit spot practice. So go and sit somewhere, whether it's in your backyard, next to your plant, at a forest preserve if you're lucky enough to be able to have access to that and time, and just sit for 20 minutes and do your with no expectations, like we often are just like, I need to be doing that. I need, like, just sit and observe and watch and listen, and whatever comes up in you, around you, allow it.
Mm.
And if you can try to kind of just work that in, and maybe not every day, but like at least a few times a week, just kind of see what that does.
Mm. Okay, and it doesn't have to be like plants or anything. Like you could do this sitting by the water and
Mm-hmm.
that stuff too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, anywhere that is nature. Yeah, which is virtually anywhere. I heard there was, in my training, there was a forest therapy guide that took a group of people out in a parking lot because there was like one tree in like a little island, and they
Yeah.
did the whole walk from there. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Okay, because I was like, I'm in New York City, so
Okay.
it's gonna be like a little bit difficult to find.
You could go out on a balcony. You could, um, yeah, go next to a water feature. Sit with a plant. There's lots of plants in New York, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody's got a plant buddy.
Yes.
So ask your neighbor if you can sit with their plant buddy for a little bit. Sit with your dog or a cat. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated.
All right, that's awesome. Like I might try that for sure.
Do it and then let me know
Yeah,
how it goes.
absolutely. So I do want to thank you so much, Callie, for joining me tonight. And one final question
Yeah,
before we wrap up.
yeah.
So, what advice or words of encouragement would you give to someone who is learning how to manage their chronic illness?
You're gonna be okay. And it is possible for the pain to end. And you can find, there is, oh, what is the quote? Khalil Gibran, um, I wouldn't exchange the sorrow of my heart for the joys of the multitudes. What you learn in your pain, whether like it sucks and I hate that it happens, but you actually have a gift that a lot of people don't get, which is what I talk about in the book, is that like I was faced with losing everything. And like in that, I learned what actually mattered. And I learned like what made me feel alive, what was love, what is life, what matters. Is it, having the finances perfectly balanced, or is it spending those really special, precious moments with the people that you love? And so you have a really special gift to be able to have that insight. And so like take that, but also you're going to be okay. Like, even if you don't heal completely, you're going to get to a place where you can find comfort, where you do feel like you're headed, that you are becoming the version of yourself that you were meant to be. You might have to adjust. I talk in the book about how like there are sort of those secondary characters. There's like the main characters in our every plot, and then we have like the outliers, and you might have to get rid of some of those things that are not vital to who you are, right? Like maybe you can't be the marathon runner anymore or whatever, but you're still you. And what makes you is not what you do. So you are lovely and beautiful and loved, and lean into the people, find the people who make you feel safe, and look for those, look for the success stories. Like I think people are afraid to believe that they can heal, because then what if they don't? you
Mm.
know? And then there's that disappointment of, oh, well, I tried and I didn't. I know because I did that for like, it was a year and a half that I had symptoms before I even started mildly healing. And so um, I remember being like, well, I'm not going to hope anymore because if I hope, then I'm just going to continually be disappointed. I think also another key moment for me was realizing stop aiming so much for being healed and realize that you're continually healing. Like we are always healing. And you don't have to be healed to matter. And you don't maybe stop waking up every morning and assessing your symptoms and being like, do I feel better? And instead just kind of be like, how do I feel today? How can I honor my body today? And just rest in that you are always healing. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Callie, thank you again. And oh, I just want to highlight a comment from Sashelle Nicole. Hey, Sashelle. And she says she loves nature. Like, she really
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
Well, I can't wait to try like the forest therapy. And
Yeah.
like I will definitely let you know.
Let me know, and I will let you know if I am gonna. I'm kind of taking some time right now to just like I'm calling it my detox, my nervous system detox. So I'm stepping away from doing the walks and things for a little bit, but I am going to offer a virtual walk soon for people who are in New York City. So if that's something you would want to do, let me know and I can keep you updated on that too.
Yes, definitely. And thanks again. And everyone, stay tuned for more empowering episodes on Rough Edges.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yes, of course. Bye.
Bye.